Hello, and welcome back to the Void Century podcast. Adam and Ed here today with chapter 989 of One Piece. I can't imagine losing. Ed, if you would do the honors.
All right, getting right into the chapter, guys. So we start off the chapter with with the aftermath of Franky attacking Big Mom. She's on the floor, and everyone's like, WTF just happened. We see Hyo attacking a random beast pirate, and he's just kind of dominating, which is pretty cool. Jinbei asks Robin for some help, and she's just like, yeah, just tell me what to do. Nami thanks Franky and Brook for saving her because, if you guys don't remember, she was captured by Big Mom and in a pickle. Luffy also comments on Franky's good job. He's like, I knew I could always count on Franky. Luffy wants to look for Kinemon, and we see that Shinobu is running with Momo away from Yamato, and Luffy's like, don't worry, Shinobu, he's an ally. You can trust him. And Yamato tells Shinobu and Momo that he is Odin and he will protect them. And their faces are just hilarious. They make some really great reactions. Luffy gets away from Big Mom by kind of like rubber banding himself away and yeeting himself. Big Mom wakes up and she just talks about how she hates the Straw Hats. They just keep popping up, getting in the way. The Beast Pirates recognize Big Mom is really upset and they get out. They run away from Big Mom because they have no idea what to expect from her. Hyo and the other samurai are still fighting off some Beast Pirates, some random fodder Beast Pirates, and they're like, this is pointless. Like, we need to fight like real opponents. And Hyo comments that maybe they should fight the Flying Six dinosaurs that Denjiro told him about. So Big Mom immediately recognizes Brook and he's on Franky's motorcycle, and Franky also introduces himself to Big Mom. Nami tells Franky to run away because she's a Yonko, and Franky's like, run away from an Emperor of the Sea? Do you want to make our captain the king of the pirates or not? And he's just like, come on, Nami, like, we're not going to back down from this. Like, this is our calling. And he starts charging up his radical beam laser. Soon after charging his laser, Big Mom and Franky both notice that there's some numbers nearby. And Franky comments that they remind him of Thriller Bark and Oars. Big Mom recognizes them as what they are, which apparently are failed ancient giants that Kaido bought from Punk Hazard. Franky notices that one of the numbers is holding on to the Brachio tank, so he decides to shoot his laser at that number so that he can free Usopp and Chopper and also reunite with the Brachio tank. So he fires his laser and it's really impressive. He hits the face of one of the numbers and Big Mom's like, hey, Iron Man, you should have lasered me, and proceeds to sneak attack, and she's gonna be able to hit Franky. But out of nowhere, Jinbei comes and does a fishman karate judo throw and completely flips over Big Mom and lands directly into Nico Robin's Milfleur, and basically Robin is directing Big Mom out of the way, keeping her momentum going. And while Big Mom is spinning, she recognizes Jinbei and telling him that she will kill him for his betrayal and what he did.
So we get a nice little chemistry shot of Jinbei and Nico Robin, and Robin's like, oh, how is that? And Jinbei's like, oh, better than I expected. You see the Beast Pirates kind of shook a little bit that Jinbei's there because he was a former warlord, and both Jinbei and Robin approach Franky and Brook, and they kind of have a little bit of a reunion, and we see Franky starts calling Chopper on a little wrist-mounted Denden Mushi, and we get a little shot inside the Brachio tank after it's been dropped, and Chopper's frantically trying to wake up Usopp, but the moment Chopper tells Usopp that it's docking time, we see that fusion's going to happen, and Usopp wakes up and he's immediately spurred onward. Then we get a panel of Queen sitting there smoking a cigar, and he notices Luffy trying to climb up to the ceiling out of Onigashima, and he's like, oh, I can see the sky. And we see Luffy stretching out to bounce himself off of the castle and through the hole in the sky, and out of nowhere between Queen and Luffy, Zoro pops out, and he's like, oh, hey Luffy, what's up, where you going? And Luffy's all stretched up and he's like, oh, Kaido's up there, I'm gonna go fight Kaido. And Zoro's like, oh, okay, well, I'll go with you. And then we, Queen's watching all this happen, and we see Zoro grab onto Luffy's legs to kind of like hitch a ride, and Luffy rockets himself out of there. And as he's flying up, they notice the numbers down there, and they're rocketing towards the ceiling. And right before they get to the top, we see that Queen transformed into his Brachiosaurus form and caught them both in his teeth, and he's like, oh, you guys aren't going anywhere. And out of nowhere we see King kind of flying up top, and he's surrounded by a whole bunch of flying numbers users, and Luffy and Zoro, they're screaming their heads off, and they're like, oh, we can't get up there, there's people everywhere. They've got the sky blocked off, they got the land blocked off. We get a panel of the numbers that Franky radical beamed, just completely lying on the ground, incinerated, and the Brachio tank is transforming with what is it? The Rhino Rider? It's the Rhino motorcycle. And Chopper and Usopp are sitting there, and they're like, oh my god, we're so mad right now, but we're only mad because we can't pilot it. This is so cool. And we see some smoke clears, and out of the smoke comes Sanji, and he's like, oh, I wonder if Momo was able to escape. And he's like, damn Germatech, this suit's so strong, I hate them for it. And we see that another one of the numbers has been knocked out, and Hio is sitting there, and he's looking at all this, and he's watching the Brachio tank fall, and he's like, oh, Chopper used himself as bait, and he was one of the Straw Hats, and we're completely surrounded by enemies, but strangely, I can't imagine us losing right now. So the next panel, we get this awesome panel of the Straw Hats all reunited. We see that General Franky, the battle shogun, is chilling out there, and all the Straw Hats are sitting around ready to do battle, looking super cool. And Luffy's like, alright guys, I'm gonna take out Kaido, you guys handle the rest and watch my back. And we see a whole bunch of numbers crowding around, and we see King and we see Queen, and then boom, that's the end of the chapter. So what did you think, Ed? I think it was pretty freaking awesome. Welcome back, by the way.
Thank you. I'm moved in, still not quite settled, but doing pretty good. And yeah, the chapter I thought was fantastic. It really highlighted how strong the Straw Hat crews have, or how much they've grown, how strong they've gotten. Especially loving Franky, Jinbei, Nico Robin in this chapter.
Oh yeah, it was really great actually finally being able to see Jinbei in the lineup with the Straw Hats. I don't think we've ever seen Jinbei included in like a full Straw Hat lineup before.
Yeah, I don't think so either. And yeah, the very end, how it ends with all of the Straw Hats together in that kind of pose. I don't think we've seen that in a while either in general. Just this.
It's very reminiscent of like Ines Lobby.
Yeah, totally. I loved it. I love the chapter. I love that Franky stood up to Big Mom, and also Jinbei again standing up to Big Mom. The fact that kind of the three of them, well, I guess you can count Brooke too. So the four of them were able to, maybe they didn't defeat her, but kind of took her out of the picture for a while to buy some time for Luffy and Zoro to get up to the top to Kaido. And I think that that's kind of the strategy right now for the Straw Hats, is do whatever they can to allow Luffy and Zoro to get to like the main battle.
So what I think is going to happen right now, so we've seen that a lot of the Straw Hats so far have shown feats that they're moving onwards to the stronger side. However, there's 3 Straw Hats that we really haven't seen kind of take it to the next level since arriving to Wano. I would say Chopper, Usopp, and Nami definitely need to leave their mark and show that they've grown, and I think this battle is a very good opportunity to do it.
I think that they have, like, personally, I think they've all 3 of them have shown pretty impressive feats to the point where I don't really consider them like they're the weakest out of the Straw Hats, but they're not that weak. For instance, Usopp has observation hockey, and that's like really impressive. That's not a common thing in One Piece at all. Like, most people don't have hockey.
No, I understand that. I'm not discounting that. What I'm saying is the current battle, we haven't really seen them do any next level feats, and I think now with this current battle is the time that we'll see it.
Yeah. I mean, like, I'd say that probably Nami has the most explosive abilities out of the 3, just because she can control like lightning and stuff like that, and rain and wind. So she's kind of like Storm from the X-Men, just a little weaker, or a lot weaker than Storm, but she's kind of got similar abilities, and I think that she has so much potential, like probably the most potential out of the 3 in my mind.
Oh, I would totally agree, but now you're discounting our boy Usopp. But again, we could go around all day and talk about this, but let's recognize one Straw Hat for going above and beyond. Brooke has stood up to a Yonko. Now we have Franky stepping up to a Yonko. So far, he just hits Big Mom in the face with a motorcycle, says a cool line, hugging the girl, and then he's like, hey, you over there, Big Mom, I'm Franky, I'm a cyborg, I'm here to mess you up.
Yeah, he like actually calls her out, introduces himself. Really cool. And just the fact that his mentality towards Big Mom compared to Nami's, saying like, I don't care if she's a Yonko, like our captain's gonna be the king of the pirates. Like, we need to step it up. Like, we need to be Yonko level if our captain's gonna be the king of the pirates. And hopefully he's gonna rub off on Nami a little and have help change her perspective on things too.
Yeah, because that's one thing I don't understand. Like, I'm not saying Nami doesn't believe in Luffy or she's not devoted to Luffy, but she's one of the crewmates that joined the earliest. She's been around for the longest time. She should already know what the game plan is. Like, her other Nakama and the rest of the Straw Hats, they won't let her fail. So pretty much go for it, be aggressive, do whatever you need to do. Your friends have your back.
Yeah, I think with Nami, she's just been so used to everyone else handling like the big picture, like the big combat stuff, that she's not used to being relied on in that regard. And that's why she also might have some self inhibitions towards her own
Abilities.
Yeah, her own abilities.
Like, I get it, she's a glass cannon, but I feel like by not stepping up or, you know, being the damsel in distress, it makes me feel like she doesn't believe like her friends have her back, like she's in mortal danger. Whereas she is, but she needs to be able to rely on the strength of her friends. Much like Luffy at the end of this, he's like, listen, I got Kaido, you guys take care of everything else. I know you can.
Yeah. Do you see Nami ever getting any type of hockey?
I could see Nami getting... I can't see her getting armament, to be completely honest with you, but I could definitely see her being adept in observation, especially seeing how, like, the weather's going to change and just feeling, like, the nature of the seas.
Yeah, I agree. If she got a hockey, it would be observation. But she might be like the only member in Straw Hat, like her and maybe Chopper, like the only two members who don't. Well, actually, no, never mind. Franky probably won't get hockey either. But yeah, I think that it's cool that you don't need hockey to be part of this crew. Like, obviously you don't, but like I think it's cool that like Oda shows how people can be effective in different ways, even though they don't all have like the strongest abilities or yeah.
Of course, we could break it down to like RPG standards real quick. Like, we know there's a lot of DPS on the crew, but Nami herself is support and pretty much support only. She's a glass cannon in that, but she's pretty much burst damage and support.
She's kind of like a mage, like a thief mage, because like
I
you
guess
said,
so.
she's a glass cannon. She can like fire fireballs or lightning strikes or whatever, kind of like a mage. But if she gets hit, she goes down, you know. And also she's a thief, like, obviously.
Yeah, she's literally a thief. Cat burglar Nami, like, there you go. So, I'm gonna pat myself on the back for a second. I know you were wary of it, but as soon as I saw the Brachiotang and the Rhino Racer, Rider, whatever you want to call it, I knew that fusion was in our future. And I'm so hyped to actually see the Franky Battle Shogun, or the General Franky, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah, it's the fusion scene was really cool. I know that the anime is going to make it ridiculous in the best of ways, so I'm looking forward to seeing that in like a year whenever it happens.
So, Big Mom versus General Franky, like a kaiju battle.
Yeah. I right now I'm actually kind of leaning towards Frankie fighting some of the numbers because he already took one out with his laser. I'm thinking that he'll be a similar. Well, so like the Brachio tank is just the head part, right? So like they were able to hold it, and it was probably a little smaller than like the numbers head. So General Frankie's not going to be as big as a number, but that would also be like a kaiju battle too. So like I wouldn't mind that either.
Yeah, but the General Frankie, even though it is like it's robots, almost like a biped, it still pretty much is just like a mobile weapons platform. So like there's lots of lasers, he's got rockets, he's got the huge sword. I'm sure he's made adjustments to it since Fishman Island.
Oh yeah, absolutely. It's gonna be a cool fight, whoever he fights, just because we get to see mecha fighting. Like there's not many mecha characters in One Piece, just because it's not kind of mecha times at all. So it's great to see some mecha stuff in there.
Gundam X One Piece, the collab you never knew you wanted. So like Hio got like a lot of spotlight this chapter, kind of sorta, which was good to see. I liked how he was all like, "Oh, hey man, like these guys are just fodder. I want to fight something bigger." Like that's admirable and respectable. But during that fight scene too, we also noticed that Hio's blade was darkened, so we don't necessarily know if it's like a perma-black blade, like a Kokuto, if you will, or if he was just pouring his haki into the blade at that point in time. Just normal armament fighting.
Yeah, what was interesting about that was that the black part of the blade wasn't on the sharp edge of the sword, it was on the blunt part of the sword, and it was kind of like two-tone, so half of the blade towards the blunt half was black, and then the sharp half was like a normal silver sword color. I think that there's a good chance he's using Haki or Ryō. He's the one who taught Luffy how to do it. He did, you know what though? He did say he didn't know how to do it himself, right? When he was training Luffy.
To make the black blades? He wasn't the one that mentioned it.
Oh, okay. So then never mind. So yeah, I think there's a good chance that he knows how to imbue his sword with Haki. So yeah, I and also another interesting thing was that he said that he called them the Tobiropo dinosaurs. So I think that just kind of confirms that all the Tobiropo are dinosaurs, which is pretty cool.
I mean, that's pretty much what we thought at first. So now we really have to consider. Now we can extrapolate kind of and think about really like, so what's who's who or Sasaki? So that would totally set who's who up for maybe being like a Triceratops, given his horns are so prominent on his head.
Yeah, I agree. And he's kind of dressed like potentially like a matador type look too. So kind of like a bull, and Triceratops are kind of bullish.
The bulls of the dinosaur kingdom.
Sure, yeah. And then Sasaki, I still kind of want him to be some type of water-based dinosaur just because he's a fishman. But I don't know. I'm not sure.
I agree too, but it's like...
Oh yeah, never mind.
You'd be mega nerfed.
Yeah, you can't be
But
in the
maybe
water.
he could be like one of those prehistoric like crocodilians. So maybe he was amphibious.
Yeah, like semi-water. Yeah.
Yeah, the name for the giant crocodiles escapes me now, but I'm sure I'll remember it after the stream. Sorry.
It's okay. So yeah, I just thought that that was interesting that Denjiro referred to them as the Tobiropo dinosaurs. That's just kind of cool.
Yeah, and he was in the inner circle too, so like
Right.
he would have a direct line to Kaido, so like he would know what they call them like to each other. So yeah, that's definitely a good observation, and that's definitely a good point. So do you think Momo and Shinobu made it out? I guess they're being escorted by Yamato now?
Yeah. I'm thinking that they're definitely safe for now, for the time being, and I think that Yamato is the one that will be protecting them, because Yamato, we're gonna power scale him to be about Tobiropo flying 6th level of strength, so he's gonna be able to protect them pretty well. And I also just really want to see them continue to talk with each other, because their reaction to Yamato calling himself Odin was hilarious.
Yeah, I absolutely do love the gag. So I think that they're gonna go all in L face once Yamato, maybe he looks at like Kaido fighting with the scabbards on top of the castle as they're running away, and he's all like, "Oh man, I can't believe that's my dad up there," and they're like, "Your dad, Kaido? What?" I really do love the gag, and I really do love how Yamato's character is shaping up, and I can't wait to see that interaction between the three of them.
And I know I've said this in the past, but I still do want him to join the Straw Hats going forward and finding Laugh-Tell. That would just be so poetic.
I do too. I kind of want to see Yamato go on like the Straw Hat crew for a while, kind of like Odin did, and then like leave after the journey. And maybe Yamato will spread like the good word of the Wano country and all the stories of Odin and the Straw Hats.
Yeah, I mean, assuming that the Straw Hats win and etc., Yamato would
Plot armor. Cough.
Exactly. Yamato would be the one to head Onigashima. Like, it's just a no-brainer to me.
Oh, so this might be like a little bit out of line, but I really do want to like popcorn one thing in here. So, ancient giants, right? So, the numbers are failed ancient giants, right? They're fighting in the skull of an ancient giant, right?
And they look like oars.
Who's obviously an ancient giant, right? So it's pretty much confirmed. So now we have Elbathian giants and we have ancient giants, and maybe there's a third race, but ancient giants confirmed.
Oars races ancient giants, you think?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that's exactly what was confirmed in this chapter.
I think that that's very, very, yeah, yeah, that makes sense to me. And that's really cool. That's a cool reveal.
That's extremely relevant because wasn't it stated? Not well. I don't think it was necessarily stated that Ors himself was picked up from Wano Kuni, but Ors Jr. definitely visited Wano Kuni. Maybe there was some sort of connection. Do you think Ors Jr. ever saw Onigashima?
Very possible, very possible. Maybe the ancient giants were originally from Onigashima. That's why there's a giant, ancient giant. Well, yeah,
It's possible. Do we think that the ancient giants themselves were affiliated with the Kingdom of the D?
very plausible. I'm wondering because that ancient giant that is basically Onigashima is way larger than Ors Jr. was, or probably Ors even. So I'm wondering, I have a theory that maybe the ancient giants never stopped growing.
Well, we that's a good theory and I like it, but I was also thinking about Zunisha when you said that. Zunisha is this freakishly gigantic elephant too, who is also ancient. So
Ooh.
maybe things were just a lot bigger back then.
Yeah, maybe Zunisha.
The giant straw hat as well. If it is Joy Boy's straw hat, yeah. What if everything was just? I know it sounds silly, but what if everything was just larger back then?
Yeah, yeah, I think that that's a really good idea. And also then the Florian Triangle beasts as well.
Them too. Maybe they're just like oh, and the Sea Kings. The
Sea
Sea Kings are
Kings.
ancient and they themselves are large.
Yeah, you know what? I think that's very plausible, and maybe most of the inhabitants of this world were actually large, and then once people came from like the Celestials came and inhabited the land, they were smaller and they kind of made smaller people as they were reproducing and all that. I don't know. That's it's a cool idea to think about.
Yeah, well, the celestial dragons themselves are like space people. We don't necessarily know if they themselves were the ones that came from space or that the other races came from space. We know that the Shandorians and the other sky people came from space,
Yeah.
which was confirmed in the cover stories. But it's very interesting to think about because maybe the space people, maybe the celestial dragons were actually the invaders.
Yeah, very, very possible. So moving forward, where do you think Big Mom will reappear now that after she's done rolling around Wano or sorry, Onigashima?
I don't know. I would love to see the gag where it's like people are trying to approach the battle and they just see like Big Mom tumbling towards them kind of like an Indiana Jones boulder scene and they're just gotta run away from a rolling Big Mom.
That'd be
I'd
hilarious.
love it if Nico Robin had the foresight to just roll her all the way into the ocean.
I mean, if she can do it, there's probably a limit to how far her hands go. So, but yeah, if she could do that, that would be really cool because then Big Mom would potentially be incapacitated if she's in the water.
Think about how think about how strong that attack had to be, okay? Let's just suspend disbelief for like infinite friction and whatnot. But that one judo move from Jinbei just propelled her all the way out. Just she's on a road now, but she just that one judo move just all the way off the
Yeah,
island.
so big thing about judo is you're using your opponent's weight against them, and Big Mom is called Big Mom for a reason. She is big. So the basically he's using her weight against her and then teaming up with Robin to kind of make her spin and roll even faster and increasing her momentum even more. Yeah, dude, she's gonna go far.
Definitely. I do love the instant chemistry between Robin and Jinbei, who are both kind of like the older, more mature members of the crew. Frankie, well, he's not mature, but he is an older member. Brooke, I guess, is definitely older and kind of mature. But I just love how they instantly have like that companionship. Robin's like, "Oh, Jinbei, you're a member of the crew now. Like, oh, if you want a combo attack, I'll help you, bro."
Yeah, exactly. Just tell me what to do. I got you.
Yeah, and it works out perfect. So maybe I missed it in the chapter, or maybe I'm just blind, but how did Luffy and Zoro escape from Queen to chill and get that sweet battle panel?
Oh, so I think what happened was Queen bit Luffy while he was trying to go up to the roof, and then he tossed him into the battle, like around where the numbers were.
Oh, again, Queen just doing Queen things and being dumb in retrospect?
Well, I think Queen just he wants to fight Zoro and Luffy himself, and he wants to prevent them from getting to Kaido. So he's just trying to prevent Kaido from having to face more opponents. Because right now, Kaido, I don't know if he's outnumbered. He's probably outnumbered, yeah, because he's got a bunch of those minks up there and all the scabbards, obviously. And like out of his allies, I think he only has Jack and some numbers. I don't know if there's any Beast Pirates up there or not, but I think he's there's a lot more enemies of Kaido on the roof than there are allies.
I agree with that, but what I'm saying is, so Queen had both Luffy and Zoro in his mouth, and you just throw them away instead of just chomping down on them and getting rid of them right there. Like, Queen's the one that always just ends things too soon, and it's gonna end up biting him in the ass.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I understand what you're trying to say, but like in this case, I think Luffy is not even trying to engage at all. Luffy and Zoro both. I think that right now he's trying to escape and he's trying to get the other Straw Hats to cover for him and Zoro while they go and join the Kaido fight.
It's possible. I don't. The way I took it with that chapter, like the end sequence with Luffy and Zoro, I figured that Zoro was gonna stay back initially until everything's pretty much done with, and then he's gonna go up and follow Luffy.
Yeah, yeah, it's very possible, but we also know that historically Zoro he doesn't like to miss out on the action. He likes to him and Luffy kind of have like the same mindset of like they want to fight like their greatest opponent. And yeah, I don't know for certain, but this is why I believe that he's going to try to get to the roof with Luffy as well. But yeah, I mean, if Zoro stays, he would have a big fight with potentially Big Mom even.
Or King. I mean, I know people are like, oh, Sanji's fighting King, and there was that whole hubbub in the community about it. But, you know, whoever fights King, King does have a sword. Queen has a sword, so there's plenty of opportunities for Zoro down there.
Yeah, and Kaido doesn't have a sword.
No, he doesn't. So we're talking about like matchups. Like, I mean, the rest of the Straw Hats are gonna easily be able to take on whoever else is down there. Maybe Perospero shows up. I'd like to see Marco come back and play some role in it. But
You know, it'd be
let's talk
funny.
about
Wait, can I just share like a stray thought I just had? It would
sure.
be funny if like let's say like you know like Marco has Perospero right now. Like let's say that he like sets Perospero down for a moment to like rest or something, and he sees giant Big Mom rolling towards him, and he like jumps or flies out of the way, and it knocks like Big Mom knocks both herself and Perospero down the waterfall.
Oh, that would be amazing. That would be absolutely amazing. And you get the Indiana Jones gag with the boulder too. I
Yeah.
love it. I definitely could see that happening. That's totally Oda style. I love it. I love it. That's amazing.
Okay, so should we do some potential matchups then?
Yeah, sure. Like, I mean, pretty much the only ones that I really care about, at least that we can see right now, are King and Queen. The Toby
Yeah.
Ropo really are nowhere else to be found in there.
There's also the numbers. There's at least two
Yeah,
out of the three that were there that are still fighting.
yeah, I know, but you got all the other Straw Hats down there. I'm not really concerned with like, you know, Sanji taking out a number. I know he could do it, especially all raid suited out.
Oh, easily. I think so. Like I know you mentioned this already, but like under the belief that Sanji's gonna fight King just because he already clashed with him. He's got the raid suit, and he's like upset at how good the raid suit is because he hates the technology. But it's like if it puts him on even playing field against someone like King, that's awesome for him. And then for Queen, I was thinking maybe Franky's tank or maybe Jinbei and Robin tag team Queen, something like that.
I could see Queen actually fighting Franky. Like they're both the tinkerers on the crew. They both have like larger of life personalities. Like they're both like masculine, manly men kind of thing. I could see that matchup going perfectly. Like the super versus the funky.
I agree actually. I think that that would be a fun fight. So Frankie versus Queen would be a really fun one. And then you know there's so many different beast pirates around. Like I feel like all the straw hats there is kind of overkill for the enemies that we've seen so far at least. Unless Big Mom returns, then it's like way scarier. But I mean, even if there's no Luffy or Zoro, like the Straw Hats can easily take out. Well, not easily. Like King and Queen. King and Queen is going to be tough. So I don't know. I think that it's going to be a fun battle either way.
So do you think that this could, since I also agree with you that the characters that we see around there for this battle to oppose the Straw Hats. The forces don't seem evenly matched. Seems like the Straw Hats could easily take whatever. What if this is the moment that Orochi comes back?
Yeah, so if Orochi comes back, he is not going to be on Kaido's side. So what does Orochi care about? He doesn't care about Kaido. If anything, he's probably happy that Kaido is going to be terrorizing Wano even longer because that's all Orochi's goal is in this that we've learned.
No, his goal is to kill Momo.
Well, that's part of his goal, yeah, but like his biggest goal is to make sure that Wano is an awful place to live.
Well, he heard Kaido's plans. He knows it's obviously going to be an awful place to live.
Exactly. So yeah, my thought for Orochi is he's gonna either sneak up and get Momo, who is pretty well protected right now so far, or Hiyori, who we don't know where she's at currently. Do we?
No, we don't. We know that she's left with Tenguyama, Otama, and Otoko, but like we haven't heard about them in forever. So I agree with you that they're vulnerable as well. But I could also see Orochi like snatching Shinobu and Momo out of the air after the smoke clears in the banquet hall.
Yeah, and we do know there has to be something tragic that happens. So it could be like to end the Act 3. So it could be something tragic like Orochi capturing either Hiyori or Momo. That could be the way that Act 3 ends. Although I think it's going to be even more tragic than that. So I don't know. Should we move on to? Well, no, never mind.
No. We can move on. I'm fine. So on top of the castle, there's a huge battle going on, and we haven't seen it for a while. So there's a potential, especially with the death flags, that there are people that are really injured or really dead up there.
Yeah. So I see that you're asking if maybe Jack might be dead, which we saw Jack in the last chapter on the rooftop. He was not dead. I don't think they're going to off-screen him.
I don't think he's necessarily dead, but there's a high probability that Neko and Inu already defeated him.
I would be really frustrated if we don't see that happen on screen because Jack is like a pretty big member of the Beast Pirates. Like, I feel like Jack, King, Queen, and Kaido all need to have like on-screen defeats.
I agree. We've seen the most of Jack and his fighting ability. I think we might get a flashback to Neko and Inu and Sulong just beating the crap out of him.
Yeah, I would be okay with that. I would love to see that. I think that they're gonna have a very strong chance of defeating Jack, especially because it's 2-on-1. It's two.
All the minks on
Oh,
one.
all of the minks are gonna be fighting Jack. Oh yeah, he's pretty screwed then because they're all pissed off.
He destroyed their home.
Yeah. Is Zunisha dead?
Damn guy. No, Zunisha's not dead, but the nation of Zo was destroyed.
Yeah, that sucks, but they can rebuild eventually. Like, I still have hopes for the minks.
It only took 1,000 years. They got 1,000 more. What are they worried about? So, yeah, I don't think the numbers are going to pose much of a challenge. I don't think any of Jack's forces that he brought up there are going to pose a challenge. I think it was really just a delay and as a mechanism to stop Kaido from taking on everybody all at once.
Yeah, honestly, like, if I'm going to power scale the numbers, I'm going to say that they're probably around Chopper, Nami, Usopp level, where, like, those three would potentially have a difficult time defeating the numbers, but would be able to defeat them, is how I see them currently.
Okay, so here's a question, right? Kaido being the lord of everything beastly and devil fruity and Zoan especially, why would he feed them devil fruits? Is there a mechanism because they're ancient giants that doesn't allow them to have devil fruits?
I don't know, but when we were at Punk Hazard, we saw that they were trying to make giant children, and none of them had devil fruits either. So perhaps they just didn't want to mess around too much with the makeup of the beings when they're already artificially making them large.
I think that might be something that's addressed once we meet Vegapunk, but it seems like it really has something to do with this lineage factor that we keep hearing so much about. And Sanji's raid suit armor and like the manipulations that his brothers and sisters got were also due to the same lineage factor that Judge found when he worked with Vegapunk.
Right.
So maybe it could be a silent nod this whole time, you know, ancient giants and the raid suit technology. Hey guys, you might want to think a little bit more about the lineage factor.
Yeah, I think yeah, I think you're right. I think you hit the nail on the head. I think that making someone turn into a giant is affecting their lineage factor to the point where they potentially won't be able to accept a devil fruit because it might kill them or something.
But think about it. So the lineage factor has to be related to your DNA and like your soul, right? Maybe like your DNA is so messed up because of the lineage factor manipulation that you're unable to the devil fruit won't accept, the soul inside the devil fruit won't accept like your body if it doesn't have a soul or something like that, or like a corrupted soul or something. I
Yeah,
don't
and
know.
if you look at the numbers, they don't
They're
yeah,
derpy.
they're derpy. They don't seem like they're fully there.
Yeah, so I mean, and it's a huge contrast to the Elbaf giants, right? The Elbathian giants, who are very intelligent and they have their own civilization and society. And even Ors Jr. was intelligent, right?
Yeah.
Like, granted, the numbers are drunk and they're failed ancient giants, but yeah, they're definitely
I mean,
failures.
even the giant children at Punk Hazard, they seem fully there. They seem like actual children. They didn't seem altered personality wise, other than the fact that they're giants. They seem,
They were on drugs.
yeah, but they seem like normal kids, other than the fact that they were giants.
Yeah, I would agree with you. So I definitely think that this lineage factor altering treatment or experimentation that developed them really, yeah, it really impaired them.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. I mean, they're failed for a reason. All right, so we kind of were talking a little bit about this earlier, but I kind of wanted to talk about other potential tragedies that might mark the end of Act 3. And we've talked about this before, but there's some big death flags for particular Red Scabbard members, and the two that we've talked about before were Kinemon and Denjiro. And I don't know if we really need to get too far into it, but just kind of like an overview of. Do you want to just kind of give like an overview of that theory real quick of either Kinemon or Denjiro dying?
Yeah, honestly, I think it would have to be a possibility where Kinemon specifically would sacrifice himself for Momo, or just sacrifice himself in the battle against Kaido, and I believe Denjiro would do the same thing. Now, I want to say this because I can see this in a lot of the Scabbards. I just don't see really how they would be able to transition back to a Wano during peacetime. Like, how would they get on with their lives? How would they fit
Yeah, and
in?
especially Denjiro because
His whole life has been consumed by rage and revenge.
yeah, and I feel like that's another thing that might contribute to him dying is the fact that he's so consumed by rage that like how can he ever become a normal person again and go back to being himself? Whereas like Kinemon, I can totally see him going back to being normal again in a peaceful time. Denjiro, it's like he can, but like it's hard to live like over 20 years like that and get like snap back into your old self.
I agree. It's like Moby Dick, which is just like an olden time revenge story that basically states that revenge can literally destroy you, and I think that's eventually what's going to happen with Denjiro.
Yeah, so I wanted to add a third candidate in the Red Scabbards that potentially might die and has some death flags, and that's Izo. So Izo met up with Denjiro and Kinemon a few chapters ago, and yeah, he was just saying how Wano is a good place to die. And, he's kind of like he's been gone for so long that he kind of feels guilty about that for kind of abandoning his post as a Red Scabbard. And another thing about Izo is that he's part of the Whitebeard crew, and we've seen other Whitebeard crew members that sacrifice themselves for the greater good or to help protect other people. And both Whitebeard and Ace died and sacrificed themselves. So it would be kind of in line with that Izo would do something like that for people that he cares about.
I agree, because I feel like the Whitebeard Pirates, they were part of the old era, right? So there's a couple notable figures from the Whitebeard Pirates, but, I can really see them kind of transition out and sacrifice themselves for the next generation, kind of what Whitebeard and, all the other good noble members of that old time did.
Yeah, yeah. And it's like you said, it's kind of like marking the age of the next generation and kind of doing like what Roger did when he died and sacrificed, like let himself get captured and try to spread like the next pirate era. So like yeah, it's just kind of like the old dying, but in a way that continues the dream to let it live on.
I agree. And, with that being said, I feel like if we're using this rationale to talk about something happening to Izo, I think we could use the same lens to talk about something happening to Marco, even more so.
Absolutely.
Like, I believe, okay, so how about this? Marco sacrifices himself, but Marco leaves the job of protecting Whitebeard's hometown to Luffy and the Straw Hat, i.e., adding another territory under the banner of the Straw Hat crew.
That would be awesome, yeah. And obviously Luffy would be the type of person who would respect that wish and hold his word and actually protect it. And like right now we know that I forgot what the city was called or the island was called, but we know that that is probably like the most precious place for Marco just because it was where Whitebeard came from and he loved him so much that like that's just a very special place for all of the Whitebeard crew, but especially Marco since he was second in command.
Yeah, I vaguely remember, or maybe I'm making this up, that Whitebeard spent a lot of his piracy proceeds towards rebuilding his home island and keeping it safe.
Yeah, yeah.
So that's like the treasure besides like the friends that Whitebeard made along the way. His home island, his hometown was really, besides finding his family, that's what he sailed for. So, Luffy would definitely, especially with his brother's connections to the Whitebeard crew, yeah, that would definitely be something that Luffy would look towards. But I definitely see death flags for Izo and Marco, just given the fact that they're former Whitebeard members and Straw Hat sympathizers.
I completely agree. All right, so next let's talk about some world government organizations. Sword and CP Aegis Zero. So as we know, Sword is like the super top secret marine branch that most marines don't even know about, and then CP Aegis Zero is a super secret world government branch that nobody is supposed to know about, and they're both on Wano. So you want to kind of go into some of our thoughts regarding these two agencies?
Sure. So Sword is affiliated with the Marines, and they're basically a group of Marines that are wise to what the world government's doing, and they are more focused on the people rather than the whims of the Celestial Dragons. So we definitely know that Kobe and X Drake are members of Sword. We believe in the possibilities of Akainu, Fujitora, Smoker, and Tashigi just based on ideologies, and obviously Helmeppo and a couple other people. CP Aegis Zero is former CP9 agents and also include people like Stussy. They are basically the CIA of the Tenryubito. They are the major spy organization that are controlled by the Gorosei and the Celestial Dragons directly.
And they're also the most powerful out of the secret government agencies.
They are, and since we know characters like Rob Lucci and Kaku and Spandam who are confirmed members of CP Aegis Zero, we already understand their mentalities and maybe what their motives are. And I think it's very interesting that those three users, or excuse me, those three people, those three members of CP Aegis Zero do have zone fruits. Given Spandam doesn't have one in his body, he has one in his sword, but he still, there are still three zone fruits.
Yeah, so I think that it's safe to say that Sword and CP Aegis Zero have clashing morals. Like they're kind of standing for different things. One is like literally like the dagger of the world government, whereas Sword is kind of like the quote unquote woke individuals with the Marines like Garp who don't really agree with what's going on with the world government. And since we know that X-Drake is on the island and he's talking with Sword, I think that there might be a clash between Sword and CP Aegis Zero, and they might actually end up fighting each other instead of actually joining in the overall battle of Wano. They might actually just they'll be on Wano or Onigashima, one of the two, but they'll be fighting each other.
Well, here's the thing about Aegis Zero, right? Aegis Zero's in there because they want to make a deal with Orochi and they want to gain access to resources that are in Wano, right? If Orochi's dead, then the world government is able to seize power for themselves. So CP Aegis Zero is kind of like the landing force for the world government taking over Wano right now. And Sword being like literally the will of the people underneath the world government. Like it's their job to stop, another island falling to the world government's control.
Yeah. Also, like if you think about it, Denjiro would be someone who would know that CP Aegis Zero is there just because he might not necessarily know it's CP Aegis Zero, but like if he's dealing with Stussy, like he's just kind of, because he's like the head of the Yakuza, he's in charge of like the black market type situation and all that, like all the illegal good types of stuff. So he might be aware of some of the CPI just zero members that are there and just have some knowledge on how to deal with them a little bit.
Oh yeah, definitely. I think that Denjiro has definitely had dealings with CPI just zero, and he would know of like why they were there and their dealings with Orochi. So I think he would be able to educate the rest of the rebellion forces, and the Straw Hats would be able to help them out with the same kind of figuring out who they're up against once they reveal themselves. But so I found it interesting that this all ties together, that Hyo was interested in fighting the Tobi Roppo. I would actually like to see Hyo meet up with X Drake and they actually form some kind of camaraderie or understanding, and that facilitates the Marines from Sword actually landing on Wano to help Wano out.
Yeah, so we know that X Drake is an undercover sword operative, and he's going to be really crucial in bringing Sword onto Wano in general. And if Hyo does meet up with X Drake, he would be a huge ally to help X Drake and ultimately help the Straw Hats and the people of Wano. Because X Drake, like if Hyo will have different supplies available to him, he's gonna know where everything is. He's just got a huge network being the former Yakuza boss. Like, I think that that would be a really cool alliance, and they'd be able to get a lot done and help with reinforcements.
It would also facilitate some interesting headcanon I have about Fujitora landing on Wano and being from Wano.
And also, like, Fujitora, I think you mentioned this before, but Fujitora has potential to be a sword member.
Oh, most definitely. Ideologically, 100%. He's the reason why the Shichibukai and the warlords have been completely dissolved.
Yeah. So I think that I would love to see Fujitora. Like, pretty much any samurai person that we've seen in One Piece, I would love to see in Wano, because there's a lot of them that we've seen, and also it's just so fitting. Like, Wano is, like, we already have so many people here. Why not toss in it like a handful more, you know?
Honestly, what I'm really stoked to see is, so we're on Wano, the land of swords. I want to see more swordsman on swordsman battles. I know that we got Zoro versus Killer, which was mad hype, but I definitely can't wait to see actual, real, legit sword battles. Like, if it's going to happen anywhere, it's going to happen here.
We're gonna see sword battles. I am not at all concerned for that.
I can't wait! It's what I've waited for forever.
Oh yeah, I mean Zoro's gonna fight a bunch of swordsmen. Like it's good. Like if it's not just one, it'll be multiple.
I can't wait. I really can't wait to see how some of these Beast Pirate members utilize their zone fruits and their swords.
Yeah, yeah, I would like
Like
to see.
King.
Yeah, like King or Queen. I mean, I don't think Queen will be able to use a sword while in that Barackio form, but King at least has some hands, some little claw hands.
I mean, well, giraffes have hooves, right? And Kaku was able to wield swords. So just because you don't have fingers doesn't mean you can't be a swordsman.
His sword would be so small for his body though, because he's like a Brachiosaurus.
Yo, but he's the master of funk. And also, it's not even about his sword necessarily, but he's the tinkerer, so who's to say he doesn't have like some kind of extendo sword?
Yeah, that'd be cool. I can't rule out anything in One Piece, man. Like anything can happen. It's all fair game. Oda's all about using his imagination, and what's nice about that is it allows us, his readers, to use our imaginations and kind of have to think outside the box if we want to consider what might happen. So, yeah.
So here's a possibility. Do you think Queen has a mech too? Do you think Queen has some sort of like augmented mecha suit just like Franky does?
No.
Why? Queen himself is part cyborg. Doesn't Queen have like a metal arm?
I just don't think so, because Queen is like can turn into a dinosaur, like a giant dinosaur. Like why would he need a mech form that makes him as strong as a dinosaur when he can already be a dinosaur, is my thought process.
Yo, okay, so think about like Power Rangers, right? The Dinozords, literally a dinosaur covered in armor. Come on, dude.
Yeah, that'd be cool.
I mean, we do have a Power Ranger there. We do have a freaking Gundam on the side of the Straw Hats. We armored dinosaurs, please.
Oda, please.
Oda, please, if you're listening to this, we'll write you a request via an SBS. But seriously, I want to see a robot dinosaur. So yeah, do you think anybody else is gonna show up from Sword? Are you stoked to see anybody else?
I can't think of any more right now, but I think we had a pretty good list of people that might be in Sword that might be coming. So yeah, I honestly I think that we might be wrapped up for this week's episode.
So again, thank you for sailing with us. This has been Ed and Adam from the Void Century podcast. If you want to find out more about us, you could reach out to us on the Void Century PC on Instagram and Twitter. You could check us out on the Void Century podcast on iTunes, Spotify, or wherever you listen to podcasts. And if you want to reach out with some comments or questions, you can leave a message to the Void Century podcast at gmail.com. Thanks for sailing with us.
Bye.
Bye.